rolling up in blacked out cars, talking like they own the stars, smiling for the camera flash, hands in your pocket, counting cash. Trust us this time, they'll stay. Same old trick in a brand new script. Waving papers, selling whole. Fine print line is a velvet roll. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, they love the power more than the people they mark. Every problem, they've got plans. Step 1, take more from your hands. Step 2, pick a team to blame. Step 3, walk off with the game. Talking justice, talking care, till you ask, hey, why's my street bare? They built mansions on those dreams, then called you cruel when you asked what it meant. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, they love the power more than the people they mark. Raise your hand if you're tired of the show. Same old play in a thrift store coat. They talk like saints, vote like sharks, writing your life with invisible marks. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, yeah. The mask falls off when the cameras go dark. Blue suits, black hearts, we're done being
Hey, welcome to California Free Radio. Mike, you're all blurry. What? You're getting blurry again.
Oh my goodness, how could that be? I'm not look blurry to me. Do I look okay now?
Hey, you look pretty good.
Okay,
Well,
there you
as
go.
far as it goes, you know.
Best as I'm gonna get. Remember, the older I get, the better looking I was. Everybody, it's California Free Radio. I'm Mike Netter. As most of you know, if not, you're about to find out. I'm running for state senate in California, District 22. For me, it has been an amazingly busy week. I've had a number of radio appearances and literally appearances everybody's restreaming these days, like we're doing, but really started my week off with a subject. I don't know if heartbreaking is even the right word for it, but it was a Steve Hilton press conference at the Pomona Fairgrounds in my district, where literally the facility we were in is one of the facilities where Javier Baccara or Becerra, the Hilton's opponent for governor, had stashed children, letting immigrants stash
The children.
There isn't even a way to put this politely. They literally in such a rush to let during the Biden administration, where Becerra was head of HHS, in the country that give a damn has, and so many children were separated. There we think the figure is between 90 and 100. Now, we're going to play a few videos from that tonight, but the press conference. But the crux of the press conference, this isn't political hype. There was literally a whistleblower that went to an organization called and kept her face off screen. She was there, etc., and talked about some of the stuff that she saw. There are children 4 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old, many who don't speak English, obviously, but even at 4 year old, 6 year old doesn't speak very well. They were trying to interview them and figure out who they were, who their parents were. These children were trafficked. These children were literally sexually abused. Many of these kids are lost. And it's beyond
Yeah.
slave labor. I mean, all the words that you want to use for it. It's actually intention that the United States of America, under the Democrats, would let this happen. And Becerra kind of makes light of it a little bit. It's pretty damn bad. And this is beyond Republican versus Democrat. This is beyond political. This is flat out and out 100 beyond the morals of what I comprehend how the U.S. government allowed this to happen. There was a lot of noise made, when it was happening. Trump's first administration, this was happening. Becerra was, as we evidenced in an audio tape that many of you may have seen before, but he was well aware of this. This was his job, his watch, to make sure that they made zero effort to track these human beings. This isn't a lost Amazon shipment. This isn't where's my FedEx the thing I'm supposed to get in the mail. These are kids. These are human beings, too small to fend for themselves, that hideous adults simply took advantage of. And we're going to show you tonight again. Becerra was well aware of this, and I'm sure many other people in the Democratic, and frankly didn't give a damn, because whatever their political motivation was, or lack of morality, they just didn't care. And in California, because we are California Free Radio, streaming live on @NetterMike, @TextFighter, and our YouTube channel, and Facebook. We're down a couple people tonight for whatever reason, so help us. We've really got to get the word out. This got some press this week, and to be candid, I've even been in arguments with my conservative friends as to how big a story this is. Will it deter the Democrats from voting? Will it get more Republicans out to vote? And will it help me in my race? I don't care. I really don't care. What I care about is, and I put this out in a few posts this week on @NetterMike, and even on my Facebook, various groups like Steve Hilton. Take a step back. If these were your kids, and I know people say, well, my kids wouldn't be separated, this wouldn't happen. Some of these kids were kidnapped. You're hearing correctly. The government knew they were kidnapped under Becerra and didn't do expletive deleted about it because they were too anxious to show pass into California. They were too anxious for this. These are human beings.
You froze on me.
But I'm back now.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay, so just really consider when we talk about sharing and getting the word out. Many of these kids, I got a couple leads and tips this week from people that were in these facilities that saw this happen. That, and again, we're talking somewhere around, I don't know, call it 90, 100,000. Nobody really knows. People in state of California, if you're up in arms about this political hyperbole about reparations, right, for things that happened 100 years ago that we had nothing to do with, where the hell is your moral anger about this? And why we have fraud coming out our expletive deleted posterior about, I mean, I'm just amazed that California, the politicians, and that includes the ones on the right, aren't making more noise about this, because many of these, this is Pomona Fairgrounds we're talking about, and you've got to wonder, where was the county of LA who was leasing this out? This was San Diego Convention Center. Where was San Diego County who was leasing this out? Keeping their eye on what they were doing. I mean, these basically turned into human trafficking mills. And I could say it stronger than even Steve Hilton and Gloria Romero did. But Gloria Romero had a great point. I think we have that video. She adopted a dog, okay, that was a shelter dog. And for any of you who've ever done that with a shelter animal, you go through a big drill, a big test, a big questioning. Much of the time, my son did this with a cat. They came out to his home to look at where the cat would be living. Fair enough. But they didn't come out to look at where these human beings were staying who, like the cat or the dog, could not speak up for themselves. Um, I've talked about a lot of things on a lot of radio
You're
shows.
saying a lot of things that here government, in the case of the dog, they go way out of their way to protect the dog, to make sure he's not going to be abused, put into a home, that he's not going to have, being taken care of properly. And then Becerra lets, what did they say, 319,000 children that they just don't know where they're at. Let's put a little bit of a background on this thing, because I think it's people need to understand a little bit of the history on it, right?
Yeah, and I've got
was
the reason that, Scott, I'm literally almost, when you watch this live and the whistleblower and you interface with these people, I'm almost, even for me, at a loss for words. About it, watching this.
As
When
you
it's just
stutter electronically.
Say what?
No, I agree. But you're kind of stuttering electronically there. So people need to realize, remember when they criticized Trump during his first administration of separating children from families? And even though both George W. Bush and Obama did this as a matter of policy, when these immigrants would come over the border and they had minor children with them, they would separate the children from the adults so that they could ask questions, right? Is this really your dad? Is this really your uncle? And the Trump administration actually took DNA tests of them so that, hey, I'm his uncle, and they find out, no, you're not. You're not related to this guy. And so they took this extra step to protect the children. But when it came to Biden and the big rush to get in 20 million immigrants, they didn't have time for that. So Becerra and HHS were in charge of processing these children. And tell me how they processed them, or not.
They just didn't. They literally, I mean, this is what's amazing. I realized I have two networks, I'm on the other one here. They didn't. And I want you to really think about that. UPS can tell you where a package is, the U.S. Postal Service can. They didn't. These children came in unaccompanied, separated from their parents, and parent kids across the border. And this is going to sound weird for those of you, I'm very conservative, but look, if you feel right, wrong, or indifferent that you're fleeing from something, be it Mexico, Argentina, or Venezuela, by the way, quite well since we to Madeira economically, you might have shipped your kid over and don't understand technology, and it's 100% wrong. Who the hell does that? What he does, you would think he would track the kid. Scott, I'm going to come out and come back in here.
No problem. So we'll sit there and we'll listen to the audio. But what happened was Javier Becerra had all of this pressure on him to process these kids quickly. And rather than separate them, as I say, and rather than check DNA, make sure that the sponsors they were allegedly going to were actually related to them, that the kids knew them, they didn't know any of this stuff. So in effect, imagine, mom being pressured by the cartel. We'll wipe out your husband's debt, but you got to have your kid go to the United States, and he's going to work in a home as a maid until your debt's paid off, and then he's going to be able to live with your uncle up there, and whatever the story is. And the cartel takes the kid. They go to the border. They've got some guy who's not related to him, who's just trafficking the children. And Javier Becerra, instead of Becerra, whatever the heck his name is, he sits there, and rather than finding out the truth and trying to protect these children, he's urging his staff to process these kids faster and get them out the door, so that there's more room for more immigrants to cross the border illegally.
And let's play that right now. For those of you that have not seen this is the visual's not so great, but this conversation that Becerra had with his staff was recorded because his own staff was horrified by what you are going to hear next.
So you have a couple of announcers that are kind of trying to clarify some of these clips for you. So listen, it's really sad. I'm sorry.
This is not the way you do an assembly line.
This was very upsetting to some of the staff, and some even sent a letter all the way to the bosses at the agency saying, we don't think that this is safe for kids. We think we're releasing them to people who might traffic them.
Wow.
It's simple math. It's addition and subtraction. It's not.
We actually got access to a recording of an internal meeting where Secretary Javier Becerra is berating staff for moving too slowly.
If Henry Ford had seen this in his plan, he would have never become famous and rich. This is not the way you do an assembly line.
He's telling staff something that we're told he often would say, which is, you need to move this like an assembly line. We need to get discharges up.
Every time we have to go to the Hill and explain why we're spending so much money. When most people are struggling to spend a little bit of money for their kids on a daily basis, we try to explain how we're spending more than $1,000 a day for kids who may not even have the legal right to be here. Not me.
Whoa. That's pretty remarkable.
I mean, it was super upsetting for some senior level people who've been working in this agency for years and years. Some of these senior staff told me that they felt more worried for these kids even than they had under Trump.
Yeah, so these guys, literally, imagine that. You've got a kid that's being trafficked, and basically the guy that's with him or her is saying, you say something that I don't like, and I will kill you. So the little 12-year-old's kind of like scared, what, and they tell the right story. Becerra is in there trying to rubber stamp these guys and get them out the door. That guy's out the door, and we haven't seen that kid since then. Where's he at? Is he being sex trafficked? Is he a slave in some household somewhere? Or is he dead and buried somewhere, and no one ever's going to know what's going on with him?
And this is the guy that wants to be governor of California. Okay, I want you to really think about that, right? It just shows again, I see one comment, what's the point? The point is, if this doesn't horrify you, if this isn't the ultimate of what the Democrats supposedly don't stand for, I really don't have words for you. Okay.
I mean, you look at his line, right? His line of, Henry Ford wouldn't be famous if he didn't have the assembly line. The assembly line is everything. You've got to treat this like an assembly line. We need to get these people out the door. I mean, these are real kids that we don't know where they're at now. And Becerra wasn't just the head of something. It wasn't like he was the border czar that did nothing and just had the title. He was in charge. He was in charge of it. And you can see these whistleblowers have tapes of him actually giving orders, basically saying, get your act together and process these kids quicker.
And when you talk about people wanting to have experience in government, is this the kind of experience you want that Javier Becerra talks about? that you want running the state of California. It's just to say it's not working out today is one thing. To understand how it really didn't work out, how we got to where we are today, a lot under this guy's watch, I don't know. Again, I really don't have words. And anybody out there wonders why we're going on about this, if you have kids or have been a kid, which most of you have, animals, pets, anything, okay, you really have to understand that the backbone of our future is always the next generation. And the future people, sorry to say this, they're going to cause trouble, okay, will probably be them. And the point I see on the screen is that's why I argued with a lot of conservative friends saying, why is this even being talked about this week? Because this is being talked about because I simply find it horrifying and the story needs to get out. This is beyond politics. And I see the comments on the screen. A few of them already have these discussions this week. I get it. Democrats won't give a rodent's posterior. They're going to vote Democrat. The Republicans, blah, 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 won't vote for them. But here's the point. You need to be aware that this horror took place. This was talked about at the press conference by Gloria Romero and a couple other people. This is beyond politics. This isn't a political point we're making here right now. I'm making. This is a point of human horror should not go on. That simple, 100%. And everybody, regardless if there's an election going on or not, ought to be rising up and saying, how the hell was this allowed to happen? And where the hell are those kids now? And there's a lot of parents out there, a lot of parents, regardless of how they got here, how the kids got separated from them, want to know where their kids are. We're talking a pretty large number of people. And I got a question for everyone out there going, yeah, it's a political talking point. We have these things called Amber Alerts. You get them on your damn phone all the time. Sorry, your phone all the time. Right? Somebody's been kidnapped, usually by a parent. Take a look out. Lasts for a couple days. It's a state law in California. Where's the hell the nationwide Amber Alert on these 100,000 kids? Think about that. You go into a plane right now. For those, and I fly a lot, everybody. When you go into a restroom in a plane, it says, if you're a victim of human trafficking, here's a number you can call the plane toilet. I don't quite know how you do that, but let's put that down. It's all over the place. It's really popular to think about and know that hopefully it's not your kid. But there ought to be an accounting, politics aside, as to where these kids are. I've met a lot of people over the years in my career, politics aside, I'm going to say it again, who lost a kid, got estranged from a kid, whatever the reason is, or kids who grew up estranged from their parents. It's not good. This is beyond a political talking point. This is literally something that you ought to take a look at. In regards to how the hell you're going to vote in November, ought to have an uprising to ask, where are those children? It's a stadium, 2 stadiums full of kids somewhere floating around the United States. And if you, in any respect, think the people, Republican or Democrat, and there probably were some Republicans who were culpable too, that should not be held accountable for this, go watch something else. I'll say that right now. Because it's...
You got the, Swalwell was the leading candidate for governor here in California. And the powers that be, the machine, whoever or whatever you want to call it, they decided Swalwell's not our guy. We want Becerra. And so they blackballed Swalwell. And they brought out all of this dirt on Swalwell. and what was the dirt? The dirt was, hey, he was a womanizer, cheating. He beat women. He didn't even have a Nazi tattoo on his chest, but he was embarrassed to resign, and maybe with even legal implications. He was sleeping with the Chinese spy, the honeypot, and that didn't get him kicked off. In fact, that got him promoted to the Intelligence Committee by Nancy Pelosi. But hey, you get a little too close to where we don't want you, and we're going to get rid of you. Are they going to do this with Becerra? I mean, he has lost. I mean, you're giving him the benefit of the doubt that a third of the 319,000 kids that he processed are lost, and it could be more. But you lose one kid, you're in deep doo-doo for the rest of your life. You probably will not sleep well the rest of your life. And this clown has lost 319,000 kids, or 100 of those 319,000. And what do you want to bet? He sleeps just fine. He looks at it as just a bureaucratic footnote.
Politics isn't necessarily about moral outrage. I get it. But I'm not running for state senate. I'm running for state senate. Let me rephrase that. Because I give a damn. And most of you who vote, I get it, really don't give a damn. You're going to vote Democrat regardless of what they do. And many of you will vote Republican regardless of what we say or do. And there's a group in the middle that may or may not vote at all. But again, until there is an uprising and reckoning in California, not about Republican versus Democrat, not about just right and wrong, our state is going to be in trouble. And it's a moral compass that we need to start to take a look at to, again, where have we come to accept some of these things? Okay? Accept. And by the way, I see what you're saying about Bill Lasali's office, etc. And some of this is going to. But the reality is this took place under the federal government. And the point of, and I've gotten some interesting tips this week. The point is, there are a lot of people, by making this story public, who saw things that are starting to come to me in these facilities when we probably weren't paying attention. There's somebody who got a hold of me this week that saw things in these processing facilities. And if those people are willing to come forward and testify, DM me, text me. My number just went out in an email to 100,000 people. But start getting it to us so we can turn this into prosecution. People are so damn scared of either, and that's on both sides of the aisle, everybody, of getting in trouble, losing their job, being, what do they call it, canceled. There's a point, everyone, where you're just going to have to stand up and say, hey, maybe it's the right thing to do. And a portion of you out there do that, but I get it, the bulk of us aren't. The fraud, the ineptitude, and I get it. And by the way, I talked about this on KABC this week about fraud, ridiculous, and people going to jail. But these are expletive, deleted kids. And regardless of the countries that they come from, the religions that they practice, how bad or good their parents were, we're talking 4 and 6 year olds here. Understand what we're talking about. I'll say that again. 4 and 6 year olds here. And many of the politicians, I guess I'm one now because I'm running for state senate, but I really don't give a damn, can't really say this directly. Everyone out there, many of you do see things. There's plenty of stories out there where someone saw someone dragged into a gas station, a kidnapping. And when you think about it, God bless the people that report it. I put them out in my X feed. Those stories get a lot of views and looks. But there's a number of times every day, I get it, where it's much easier to turn your head when you see something. And I want you to think about, many of these kids will be 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's much easier to turn your head away and not interface with them, etc., etc. So, yeah.
So
Sarah made a
don't-
joke.
don't-
Hold on.
don't-
Well, Sarah made a
go ahead.
joke that I should be in jail if I lost that many kids. And you probably should. And probably a group of people around you who took those orders probably should.
For those of you who are not getting Netter News has great information, one of which is this issue. And, they in Netter News, you know who wrote that, right? Oh, yeah, Netter. You quoted in here there's 479,000 unaccompanied migrant children that came in under Becerra's responsibility.
Yeah.
319,000 were lost, with 140,000 still missing, most under the age of 13. So, 140,000, many of them sold into or still working as sex slaves, indentured servants, whatever they're doing, it's not a pretty sight for anybody, much less a child, especially one under 13. And, this guy should be going to jail, which is why I like my orange jumpsuit picture of the guy. But instead, he's the Democrat nominee for governor. When's the Democrat Party going to sit there and say, hey, there are certain minimum standards? They haven't reached that point yet. I don't know that they have any minimum standards.
By the way, I want you to think about this too. That those kids, and take a step back, everybody, okay? The homeless problem keeps getting worse. And by the way, that was in Netter News too. Look, we can debate about the crime rate, depending on the homeless problem is getting worse.
How do they get Netter News if they want Netter News?
You can Google Netter News and subscribe for free. Okay, it's pretty easy. Netter News.
And I support that. Yes.
Click on it. I get a lot of great comments on it. And I had an opinion piece in there, a piece on there. When's Becerra going to be held accountable? There is so much to pack in there on this issue. I couldn't even pack everything on there this week and without blowing up about 10 keyboards. But I want you to think about something else, everybody. How many of those people, and maybe there's a hidden financial motivation, of those kids will become the homeless of tomorrow? Because they weren't brought up with skill sets and good homes. Think about that. Pretty good chance if you're one of those kids, very few of them will be PhDs or MIT. You know the reason I said that, Bianca. Engineers, probably not many of them. Their odds of being homeless are, and we keep asking, where's the homelessness coming from?
Yeah, but you're presuming, of course, they even live to adulthood with the lives that they're going to be going through. And you guys have to realize this is not something Republicans have discovered and decided to attack him on. These are whistleblowers coming forth because they can't sleep at night knowing that these children are unaccounted for and that they had a hand in making that happen. And
by the way, I'll blame the Republicans too for not making a bigger issue out of this earlier. Okay,
when it happens,
because
yeah,
I'll get the point. It's kind of a weird political issue when we talk about it because it's not whatever, but it's an issue. And for anybody with a shred of damn human decency, make it an issue and start asking those questions. Scott, we've got a couple more videos to roll, I think.
Yeah, let me. I'm going to play the report from the bunker. I started doing this last week. I did it again this week. I'd love your feedback in the chat, whether you like it or not. I post it on X. Mike posts it as well. Here you go. Let it go. Hey, this is Scott Piotr, California Free Radio. I'm coming to you from the bunker, an undisclosed location, giving you a bunker update from California Free Radio. Today we're going to talk about, and this week we're going to talk about on the show, Javier Becerra, the gubernatorial candidate from the Democrat side in California. Can you believe this idiot? When he was Secretary of Health and Human Services, he misplaced 325,000 unattended minors as they crossed the border. He wanted to handle them like a Henry Ford assembly line and get them processed and out of there before they could verify whether they had proof of residency, whether they had the proof of, whether their sponsor, so-called sponsor, was going to be a relative, or did he just participate in the biggest trafficking ring in the United States ever, which I think is the case. But Becerra needs to be in jail for kidnapping and child endangerment. Instead, he's the Democrats' choice for California governor. Hello? Join us tomorrow night, 6:30 live on TaxFighter. Can you tell it was outside and it was really bright out? I'm squinting a lot. So I got another video here. This one is of the day.
The answer is, if there are oversight hearings, I absolutely will cooperate fully and testify before the Congress if asked. You may not know, but I've testified before the Congress a few hundred times, okay, over the last 40 years or so. So I have no trouble testifying. We can defend and explain and stand by everything that we've said. So I have nothing to add. Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
So we ought to have it as a test. Name that guy, since you couldn't see his face on the widescreen. If you're looking at it on your phone, you could see him fine, but that vertical format didn't translate very well. And I got another video here.
This is not the way you do it in an assembly line.
So we just had a leak of these Becerra tapes, as people are calling them. There's so much still to come out. When you see the scale of what Becerra did, what he's responsible for with these migrant kids, thousands and thousands of them, and what happened to them, the trafficking, the slave labor, and the injuries, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And this tape that just came out of him talking about assembly line and whatever is just disgusting.
It's addition and subtraction. If Henry Ford had seen this in his plan, he would have never become famous and rich. This is not the way you do an assembly line.
But there's something also tucked away in that isn't getting enough attention. Becerra himself says, we got to get these kids out of our custody because we're spending $1,000 a day on kids who don't have the legal right to be here.
When most people are struggling to spend a little bit of money for their kids on a daily basis, we try to explain how we're spending more than $1,000 a day for kids who may not even have the legal right to be here.
What, suddenly he cares about taxpayer money being spent on people who shouldn't be in the country? He still supports spending taxpayer money on free healthcare for people who don't have the legal right to be here. This guy is so totally full of it. I cannot wait to take him apart in this election campaign.
Hilton's great. He just puts out videos every day. He calls a spade a spade. He's not afraid to tell it like it is. He would be a fantastic governor. And I really hope this Becerra guy that his true character comes out and that he explodes and loses this race. I mean, face it, we the voters still have a choice. The election hasn't happened. The cheating hasn't occurred yet. We do have a chance to keep Becerra out of the governor's office. Vote.
And by the way, related to the Fauci video, I really want you to start to tie these two things together for a second. I want you to really think about this. So we have a generation of kids that, thanks to alleged COVID and lots of reasons, I'm not going to turn this into a COVID show, that were robbed much of their right to go to church, their right to get an education, their right to do a lot of things, because a couple guys, of which Fauci was one, decided it'd be a good time to have a pandemic. That's a generation of American kids. Then we have, I want you to think how many people, let's just call it 100,000 of these other kids, that lives will turn out a lot worse than they could. The hell are groups of these small groups of people doing to what is going to multiply into a pretty big next generation that many of us may not even be around to see? Think about this very carefully. And what I'm going to ask, and I get it, Hilton's a political video. I'm a Steve Hilton guy. I'm running for office. Okay, get it. SAVAC, get all that. But here's what I'm going to ask you to do tonight. We've talked about this. I want you to forward chunks of this show to your pastors. Because this is where pastors go, I don't want to get politically involved. I'll lose my nonprofit. I'm scared to speak up. Make sure you contribute Sunday, by the way. Hey, forward this information and ask the pastors, if nothing else, Republican or Democrat, to stand up for moral authority here. Because this is literally what we're talking about. Scott, I'm going to break script as I always do. When I was a young kid, okay, we would go down across the border from San Diego into Tijuana and deeper Mexico, and as young kids from a church, and help the poor down in Mexico. Sometimes we helped rebuild some houses. We went in, we did some stuff, obviously with a religious bent. Okay. Now, many of those people that we were helping way back then, 40, 50 years ago, it's a group of people in the United States that are these kids. Right now, I'm not even asking to leave your home, but really get this message out. The press has put some out on it this week. They're going to downplay it a bit. Fortunately, it's also come out the week when Fauci's in the news, being the lion sack of expletive deleted that he probably is. Otherwise, why would he be pleading the fifth? I've testified in front of Congress a lot of times. This time, I'm shutting up. And by the way, he's got a pardon from Joe Biden, so who the hell knows why. But go out on a limb right now, and you've got phone number of your pastor, the email of your pastor. Just send in the show and ask their opinion of it, one-on-one. I want you to really get the community fired up that we've got a large number of people still floating around who don't know who their parents are, and a large number of parents, many who may not even be in this country anymore, who don't know where their kids are. Yeah, wouldn't be my kids necessarily. Wouldn't be your kids necessarily, but it happened. Okay?
No, I agree. I think we've kind of beat this horse. I don't know that you can beat it enough. People need to understand how brutal, hard-hearted this man is and what he did to the lives of these children that cannot be undone. You know, we can rescue them from where they're at, but you can't undo the horrors that he's put these children through.
And I want to beat another horse on a lighter thing that I talked about on KABC this week, where I was called in, talk about my race there. Let's take a step back when we talk about broken promises, and this is a really big broken promise with this guy, Becerra. Let's talk about Gavin Newsom a little bit. Sorry. So,
man.
when I was on, I don't know if Scott's able to play this clip or not, on tiny houses. This is how bad the government of California is at executing what should be a simple promise. I believe it was March of 2023. Gavin Newsom did a really big press conference, and I didn't send it to Scott to put up on the screen, where he said, we're going to build something like 50,000 tiny houses. I'm supplying funding for it. And for those of you not aware, a tiny house is basically a prefabbed home. Actually, I listened to the press conference. It sounds like a pretty actually logical idea. We're going to take a prefab home. We're going to put it on an empty lot. And Gavin said, even made fun. Oh boy, they're going to call me out if I don't get at least 25, 30,000 of these built. But when I look, it's a prefab home on an empty lot. Okay.
And you can go buy a really, really, really nice tiny home to put in your backyard, to rent out Airbnb or to live in it yourself, probably for about $75,000. and you still have to hook up the utilities. Call it $100,000 to have it in place and hooked up. So tell me how much Gavin spent.
Well, we spent about 30 to 50 million. We're not sure because our government isn't transparent. But 1 year after, because apparently they couldn't figure out the stuff on the lots or whatever reason, they built zero. To date, they built 500. Now, when you want to talk human tragedy again, sorry, folks, kind of the theme of the show, right? Well, we couldn't get the utilities hooked up correct. We couldn't get to do something with the empty lots. We've got too many regulations. When I'm state senator, I'm going to ram it up their posterior because those homes were for people that don't have a roof over the head, that would rather have any roof than no roof at all. And I get it, they got drugs, they got alcohol problems, etc., etc. But we could take a pretty good chunk of people. Great plan, Gavin, as usual. You have my little video from KABC or not? I don't know if you can play it or not. It's a screenshot.
I actually have a link of that. I can put it up if you want.
Okay, yeah, why not? Let's just put that up real quick because we forget about these things because the next story comes along in shiny objects. So let's just throw this up here. And by the way, hold on. Wealth tax, full houses doesn't work. Go ahead.
All right.
Amount of money, the ineptness of government in solving the homeless problem, the amount of money that they put in is insane. We all know it's corruption. We all know it's layers and layers of people running around with crack pipes and golf carts making $60,000 a year. By the way, I did apply for that job. But the reality is, you take something as simple as putting a prefab house, pre-made. You order it, comes off a truck, you put it on an empty lot, okay? Probably when the KABC crew got off tonight, we could pull off a few. And within 3 years, Gavin Newsom's government, state government, has pulled off none. The ineptness of government in solving the homeless problem, the amount of money that they put in.
Yeah, not good.
No, and when you think about it, and I get the wealth tax, what someone's saying on the screen, wealth tax just goes into a general fund. Those little people driving around in golf carts, dropping off crack pipes, there'll be more golf carts and more crack pipes if this billionaire tax passes. Again, what's conceptually sounding good, where Gavin got a big press conference, great, conceptually sounds good. We can get tiny houses and we can build them fast and we can get them out. We can even put them in little villages to help these people, but they didn't execute it. It's the same thing they're pitching with the wealth tax. It doesn't work because we don't have opposing forces in our government or supervision. Large wads of money vanish, and this is exactly how. I was asked on some show this week, what's one of the first things, how would you solve this? Look, members of the state Senate and the state assembly, and I get it, many of them are worried about their next election and their job. As you could tell, I don't give a rodent's posterior, have access to the state legislature and state analyst office. And some people like Cara DeMaio make another noise, but there's a lot of causes that everybody's involved in. Let's start finding out where the hell has some of this money gone and why isn't it going directly to get stuff done? We're not told about it because they keep passing laws to keep it opaque from the public. But members of the legislature, if they know what to ask for, and I'll grant you a lot of them don't know what to ask for. In my business background, I know what to ask for. Need to get those records and figure out, keep some people accountable. 100%. And yes, they do know, the Democrats, exactly where some of this is, but they're skimming just a little off the top.
Just a little. I mean, the whole thing of tiny homes. I mean, first of all, they operate under this presumption that, oh, if you put a roof over the head of the homeless guy, he's no longer homeless. Problem solved. No, most of them are homeless by choice. They want to do drugs. They want to do alcohol. They don't care if they live in the streets because they get to do what they want to do, and they couldn't do that otherwise. And rather than coming down hard, putting them in institutions where they're forced to get clean, maybe to go on medication themselves, depending on their psychological conditions, instead, no, let's give them free crack pipes. Let's help them do drugs. Because we know, if we just help them do drugs safely, eventually they'll get off drugs then. Yeah, how's that working out for you, Gavin?
They'll eventually die and reduce the homeless count. Look, the biggest problem we have in this state, and I'm just trying to look up the figure right now, okay? We become so immune to $1 billion here, $1 billion, our budget's grown by 100 and some odd billion. And for any of you out there watching this show, no matter who you are, $1 million's a lot of money. I'm guessing, or you probably wouldn't be watching our show, which is why I make Netter News free, because most of them out there don't have. So if you can scam $1 million off this unsupervised 50 million, 100 million, $1 billion, it's a huge chunk of money. Okay? Huge chunk of money. And the problem is, seen another comment in there, many of these billionaires funding these power plants, the other things, don't actually live in California. So that the whole tax thing is probably a whole other show. But here's the reality, okay? It's not going to matter who you tax or what you do unless we have accountability in government, which is another reason I'm asking you. Maybe donate 1776 to my campaign in honor of the country, but go to netter.vote and start investing a little to help the state save a lot and make this state, some portions of it, livable again. And some of you are watching it, decent house. Some of you watch it from a decent place. Maybe your kids are safe. Great. But go to downtown LA, go to the streets of San Francisco. Spencer Pratt put out a video today, which actually a few people did. A woman giving birth to a child on Skid Row. I'm going to say that again. A woman giving birth to a child on Skid Row. And I love one of the comments I got on one of my feeds. You think the people taking the recording would have stopped to call 911. Okay?
Heaven forbid. How many people now, when they're walking down LA, just take it as normal operating procedure here, that you're just going to have homeless, and the homeless are going to be obnoxious. The homeless are going to be passed out all over the streets. The homeless are going to bug you. Hopefully they don't attack you, but they destroy businesses. LA is turning into a ghost town. The Fabric Center is the primary area where Skid Row is, how it has been, and fewer and fewer tenants are going down there. They're leaving because, well, A, Amazon, but B, if you want to get fabric, there's no other place to go but there. And they're all leaving because they're burning the places down. Fewer and fewer people want to come and walk around with the homeless guys. And so, it's just not happening. It's destroying big cities like LA and San Francisco if they weren't already destroyed.
By the way, another comment. It's not that they want to be homeless. It's that we enable them. The despair period, we've created a situation. And the point of this show is we're creating the next generation of homeless people. And take a step back and listen to what I'm saying. When you keep Fauci in the news, we're talking about COVID and, oh my God, we couldn't leave home, blah, 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 blah. We get a generation of kids that are not going to have a skill set, okay? That might be socially inept, even if they have a skill set, because they weren't allowed to interface. We started off the show, and I beat that horse until it was dead. I don't know why we always pick on beating dead horses. Pick another creature, I guess. horse lovers don't get too mad, but we're always beating the dead horse about all these kids. Again, how do you think the lives, do you really think most of these 100,000 kids are going to end up in good homes with good jobs? No, they're going to end up as part of the homeless industrial complex. Okay.
Well,
If you
as long as they vote Democrat, that's fine with the Democrats. You do understand that,
want to
right?
find something offensive, be offended at flipping that. Okay? The cause is pretty simple. It rolls generation to generation. Let's go back to something real quick before our time, but not before our parents' time, and that was the Great Depression, caused by an economic whatever. This is what we're creating, the next Great Depression. Okay, Scott, we're getting near the end here. I know you have a few things you want to talk about. Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention Kurt is, quote, on assignment tonight. He will be back next week. Last week, he was on assignment, but Kurt is not homeless and he will return.
So, last week actually happened the week before. Marco Rubio did a really good job. He came out. You often hear these idiots, commentators, media wackos, and Democrats, but then I repeat myself, come out and say, oh, communism is wonderful. We could all be equal if only we could do it right. And Stalin and all those guys, they didn't do it right. We here in the United States, we can do it right. And then we'll have utopia. And Marco Rubio called it out like it should be. He goes, no, communism sucks no matter who tries to implement it. Communism is where you have people that are too lazy or unable to work, and they're taking money through force of government from people who earned it. And so what happens? They stop earning it because they can't keep it. And then everywhere it's tried, Marxism has failed. And yet we keep electing Marxists. And, Jip Mondami just came out last week in New York and said, oh, yeah, our grocery stores, we're going to cut 30% off the price of, quote, essentials, whatever that is. Maybe it's popsicles. I don't know. But we're going to cut 30% off. Well, you know what this is going to do? He's going to go down there and put government-subsidized grocery stores in, and the few grocery items or opportunities that are left in the area, mainly local bodegas, which are usually family-run, multi-generational family-run, they're going to go out of business because they're not going to be able to subsidize the milk or the eggs or whatever is considered essential. And so you're going to go and you're going to get your subsidized milk, your subsidized eggs, and all the bodegas are going to go out of business. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have any options anymore. I loved the meme that came out where they had a picture of a bread line, right? And in socialism or Marxism, you wait for bread. But in capitalism, and they show a picture next to it, you go down a bread aisle at the local Ralph's and you have literally 50 or more choices on what kind of bread, what kind of packaging. Do you want it toasted? Do you want sourdough? Do you like gluten or not? So the caption underneath it is that in communism or Marxism, you wait for the bread. In capitalism, the bread waits for you. And it's such a great picture. That is the difference. Now, if you really want to wait in bread lines, then keep voting for Mondami. But if you really want options, if you really want the opportunity to become wealthy yourself, there is no other system that's proven capable of being able to do that other than capitalism. Capitalism is ordained, face it, none of us are perfect, right? We're not in heaven yet. And God created capitalism. It's how people are motivated. You're motivated to do better for yourself. You're motivated to get more money for yourself. And so you work harder in capitalism and you get rewarded more. It's perfect. And there's no other system that's lifted people out of poverty. And there's no other system where the middle class is as humongous as it is under capitalism in the United States. And yet you have these idiots trying to convince us that capitalism sucks and Marxism is the way to go. Fine. Move to one of the countries that already has Marxism and be happy. Good riddance. Get out of here. You're a non-producer anyway. We don't want you. In my X feed this time, you had all these Europeans that left the World Cup, right? And yes, soccer is still boring. But the fans that came over were fantastic. In fact, they really woke up us Americans to realize how great our country is. And they've been going back now, and they've been crying about how much they miss America. And I think we need a new State Department deal. I think for every Marxist, every America hater that leaves the country, that we invite one of these other fans over here. We give them their citizenship, their green card, and the American who hates America can leave permanently, give up his citizenship, renounce it, and he's not welcome back here again. I think it'd be a trade I'd make all day long. What about you, Mike?
By the way, I've spent a lot of time in Europe, probably as much as anybody watching this show. A lot of great stuff to see, and most Europeans really do like America. Look, I'm going to do something right now before we end the show I don't normally do. I am posting, and it hurts my X feed, Netter News again right now to read up on what we're talking about. And I want you to read again, like we've talked about, not from a political point of view, but I want you to forward this as much as you can. It's not going to help your X feed. It's a link to my newsletter. But I want you to do this. I want you to make sure it gets spread, again, to your pastors, to your fellow human beings, etc., okay? And make things happen. Scott, let's wrap.
Your X feed, for those that don't speak X, is at Netter Mike. You can see it on the bottom of the screen. At
Correct.
Netter Mike. You can watch the show live here right now on at Netter Mike. But that's where he just posted, and he posts so
On
much. So you need to get it now, or else you'll be scrolling forever to find the link for Netter News.
Right. It's also put out again on Facebook, and I put out on LinkedIn. God bless everybody. We'll be back next week with California Free Radio. In the meantime, you all have your homework assignment. And your homework assignment is this: where the expletive deleted are the kids. And again, think of it as one of your kids, your neighbor's kids, a kid at your church, a kid at your school, a kid that your kid knew. Start asking those questions. Let's get some damn answers. God bless. Good night.
All right, you guys. See you next week, 6:30.
They said trust the experts while they locked up the town. Gave us 12 more genders. Took our paychecks down. Flag on the porch. They call you extreme while they cash big checks and scream on your screen. Tear up the script like it's 1776. Hey, hey. They're allergic to bricks and sticks. All bark, blue check, big talk, no grit. We the ones they can't censor or fix. Oh, sing it loud, that's the trick. Red, white, and really annoyed as.
All right, everybody.